have you ever wondered how they make those really pretty bloom flower coasters and you've tried it and you've not been able to do it? Well, today I'm going to show you how I do it, but I'm also going to experiment whether alcohol inks or normal pigments make the best blooms, or if there's any real difference. And I'm also going to show you a technique as well that I do like to use with this coaster that is quite interesting and works really, really well. So without too much further ado, let's mix our resin up. Now, it's really important when you're making these that you are using a good quality resin. And I like to have a resin that is medium thickness. So I'm going to be using the Pure Glossy by T-Expert. And the reason I'm using that is it's a medium thickness resin. It's 1-to-1 resin. It mixes up lovely and it releases bubbles really, really well. But it has the most amazing gloss finish to it as well when it's finished. You won't believe how good a gloss finish it has. And it also has really great UV protect. So let me mix my resin up. 1-to-1. And I'm going to mix enough up for all of this. The other thing that we're going to be testing is whether they work better with a deeper mold or a more shallow mold. Unfortunately, I don't have any more of these. I only got the one. I don't know why. So I'm having to use the ones where they've got a little lip in them. But that shouldn't be too much of a problem. It may give a beautiful effect anyway. So not to worry. And the other thing we need to do is make sure we've got a mask on and put some gloves on as well. Now, I know some resins say no VOCs on them, and they're actually not lying, they're telling the truth, but that means no VOCs mostly, in most cases, when they're cured, not when they're in the liquid state. If you're unsure, always contact your resin supplier and say, does this mean no VOCs when it's in its liquid state and while it's curing? Or does it mean no VOCs once it's cured? I've not yet had any resins where it hasn't released some VOCs while it's curing. So I can quickly mix that up now for 4 minutes and get ready, pour it out, and then pop any bubbles that may have come up to the top. So that's now had its 4 minutes and it's all mixed up. Don't forget to turn it off if you're using an electric mixer before you lift this up, because if not, it does make a mess. So now I've got that mixed up, what I'm going to do is pour some in there into this little separate jug, because that's going to be for my white colour that I'm going to need. And then I'm also going to pour some in here in these little jugs as well, because that's going to be my main colours. And I'll do the same with the alcohol inks on this side. Apart from that one, that's not going to be done like that. You'll see how I'm going to do this one in a minute. Once I've done that, I can then start to fill my moulds up. Make sure that you fill your moulds up just to the top. You want a little bit of a gap in each one between the top of the mold and the resin, because obviously you're going to be putting more colours in there and you don't want it to be overflowing. So they're all poured out. Now what I'm going to do is mix my colours. Now I'm going to use 3 pigments. I'm going to be using white, yellow and red in both the alcohol inks and the thicker pigments. And the reason I've got 4 pots is because one of them I want to turn pink. So I'm going to add a bit of red and a bit of white to that one. Now the reason you will probably get slightly different effects is the pigments themselves are heavier than alcohol inks. Now I'm going to mix those in and make sure that they're quite solid colours. Yeah, that's lovely and solid. And when you mix these up, you can put the colours into a piping bag if you wish to make it easier to do the next stage. I don't tend to bother, which is something perhaps I should, because I'm not really very delicate and I'm quite heavy-handed. But we'll see. And if you've got any piping bags, you can always use plastic bags, small plastic bags. Mixing these pigments in, I will have introduced some bubbles. So what I'm going to do is leave these for about 2 or 3 minutes to allow any bubbles to come up to the top of these and then burn the bubbles off the top using a long neck lighter. I won't do that with the alcohol inks when I do those ones, because the last thing I want is to set my alcohol inks alight. So let's move those to one side. And now I can mix up the alcohol inks and I'm going to do those in exactly the same way. So now I've got those all mixed up. What I'm going to do first is for these 2, I'm going to put my alcohol inks directly onto here like this. We're testing out whether the thicker or the thinner ones work the best. All I'm doing now is just leaving them on there and letting them spread out as much as they want to be. Spread out. And then I'm going to leave that for a few seconds. This is my resin with the white alcohol ink mixed into it. And rather than pipe it in, what I'm going to do is, and I don't mind if it's got wriggles in it like this, I'm going round the outside in a spiral like that. And I'm going to do the same on this one. There we are. I'm going to put a little bit more into the center. And now I'll leave that for a couple of minutes. And I'm just going to mix up myself some more white alcohol ink. So for these two, I'm also using alcohol inks again. What I'm going to be doing is putting layers in like this. I'm doing a circle in the middle and a circle a little bit further out. I'll put the next color there. Oh look, I'm not very steady on this, am I? And now for the white for these ones, I'm going to do a spiral going all the way through again. And as you see, I haven't done anything else to these as yet, and I won't until I've finished pouring all my colours. And these are the pigment ones. I'm going to be doing something very similar to these as I did to the alcohol ink ones. If you use a piping bag, you are a lot neater than what I'm being. But I like the more, I don't want to say rustic, but I like the more natural look of it not being too neat. And now all I need to do is do my little spiral in with my white. And now what I'll do is I will leave these for about 10 minutes before I do the next stage. Because personally, I feel that that allows the colours to blend in a little bit more and sink a little bit deeper. You get more of a 3D effect from it that way, in my opinion. So they've had long enough now, and what I'm going to be doing is putting my shapes in. All I'm going to be using for this is a very thin wooden stick. And I'm slowly dragging it to the middle. And I like to do it in quarters first. Then I like to do it in eighths. Back into the middle. And then I like to do it into each one of those again. And give it a bit of a twist in the middle. There we go. And I'll do the same for each one of these. That one I'm only doing into eighths. And I might do the rest of them into eighths as well. Because they're not as wide as I thought they were going to be. And now what we'll do is we'll leave those to cure up overnight. And then we can come back to them and we can have a look at which ones worked out. Well, now these are all cured, we can take a look at them. This is the one with the pigments, and as you can see, they have sunk really way down, and that's because they are quite heavy. And this is also a thick finish. I mean, the pattern in that is pretty, but it's not what we're looking for. And the same with the alcohol inks. Look at that. That mold's had it now. Look, it's lost all its shine. So that has not really produced it again. It's because it's too thick. And this is where we put the alcohol inks into it and then put the stuff in, and again you can't really see it, but look how thick that is. So now go into the other one, the thinner molds. That's quite a pretty pattern, but it has all sunk down, and it's sunk down the edges. Ideally this isn't the best mold to make these with when it's got these indents here. Oh, that's pretty. Look at that. And that's the alcohol inks. They haven't sunk right the way down, so you've got that nice clear bit there, and you've got some distinction. I like the pattern. And this is where we put the alcohol inks on the top and then put the colours in. Now that, look at that. Look how pretty that is. So I use the adhesive, self-adhesive felt. It stays on there really, really well, and it's so easy to put on, and it saves having all that glue everywhere. All you need to do is take your backing off like that, pop your item on it, get yourself a nice sharp blade, and then if you slowly cut round it, you know that it's going to fit, and it really does finish your coasters off well. Now, don't sell your coasters or use your coasters for at least 4 weeks, because you need them to be fully cured. You need them to be fully cured. I want to say cured and hard at the same time. Look at that. Look at the effect that you've got there. And that lovely felt. You get loads of sheets of this. So once you've mastered the basics, and I think it's really important to do the basics and know what's going on, then you can do some more complex colours and patterns. So what I'm doing here is similar colours to what I did before, but I've added a couple of other colours. I'm using here a red and a yellow. I'm going to put a blue in the middle. Now, you can also put stones or gold leaf in the middle as well as the middle of your flower. And I've also got some of this coffee colour to get a bit of dark contrast here. And I'm going to also put in some of this purplish red. Bit more blue in that middle. There we go. And I'm happy with that. And now I'm going to put in my white. And again, this is all alcohol ink. And you can get yourself these little clay tools, and they're silicone on the end. And these work really, really well for doing things like this. So you just pop it in. Clean the tip every time. Give it a bit of a wipe because you need a white, nice, clean tip. And then again, do your quarters. And I'm going to do eighths. And then this time, I've gone in that way with it each time. I'm going to go, but not quite from the middle, and I'm going to go out with it like that. So never give yourself a hard time if the things that you're making don't work out the first time. Resin can be a bit of a tricky mistress, and the more we use it, the more we get better with it. So don't get frustrated when things don't work out. Often I have things that don't work out how I want them to work out to start with. So now we've got that pattern. I will go over it quickly after about 5 minutes just to get rid of any bubbles with a long neck lighter. Now that alcohol isn't going to catch fire now because it's well embedded in that resin. You will create a few bubbles as you're doing this. There we go. And then I'll show you what this one looks like as well. These are nice and cured now and ready to come out. I also did one in this mold to show you that you can make them in these molds. You just have to fill them up only a little way and not too deep. So let's have a look at that one. And that one's come out really, really pretty. Look at that. I love that. Let's have a look at this one. And that one's come out equally as pretty. I'll quickly back them and then I'll show you everything at once. Well, they're all back now and look how pretty that is. I mean, that has come out really, really pretty. And the same with that one as well. I love it. Now, if you do larger cut throughs, so only go through it 4 times, then you'll get less frilly. But I actually really like the frilly finish to them. So we've definitely learned that alcohol inks are the way to go with these. Definitely not the pigment liquids, if they're the thick pigment liquids. And it's much better to be shallower than the deep ones. But nobody really wants a coaster that size anyway, do they? I mean, let's be honest. They are massive. They're more like paperweights. I think it gives a pretty pattern, and I'm going to be doing a video where you can use this soon as a great way of getting a really pretty finish. So keep an eye out for that one. And there we go. Check out the video that I've got coming up next. I think you'll love that one. Boop the like button, hit the subscribe button, but most of all, enjoy your resin. Take care. Bye.